You've been trying to quiet your OCD brain for a very long time. You've tried to push the thoughts away. Maybe you've argued with them. You've analyzed them, reassured yourself out of them. Maybe you've distracted yourself. You've waited for them to pass. And sometimes it works for a little while. But then OCD comes back with a new thought, a new fear, a new story that feels more urgent and more convincing than the last one. And here is the thing that nobody told you. Every single strategy you've been using to quiet your OCD brain, OCD specifically designed those strategies, not you, your OCD. Because OCD wants you to keep playing defense. And as long as you are doing that, OCD is winning. Now, this is not because you are weak. It's because you've been playing the wrong game. And today, that changes. Reid Wilson is a PhD psychologist and one of the most respected OCD clinicians in the world. And what he is going to share with us today is going to flip everything you thought you knew about how to beat this thing. Because the goal isn't fewer obsessions. The goal is learning to run your own plays, even when OCD is loud, especially when OCD is loud. Welcome, Reid.
Thank you, Kimberly. Good to see you.
Yes, again, you are one of our return visitors. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Reid, before we get into your framework, I want to really dive into the cost of playing defense. You talk a lot about that in a lot of your writing. I think a lot of folks have been playing into this cycle for a very, very long time. They're, spending a lot of time playing in the defense. What does living in defense actually do to a person over time? Like, what does OCD take from people if they don't learn to play offense?
Well, to start with, you're using the right terminology when you use the word play, right? So let's just back up and think about not that this is a game, of course, because OCD is quite serious and quite debilitating. But what we want to do is create a frame of reference that provides me a strategy to start playing the game in such a way that I can win. So that means creating a kind of conscious framework of it all. So if we therefore create this as externalize OCD and personify it, it's the challenger in this mental game. And again, we're going to set it up this way to give you a handle of how to approach this. When you back up, when you argue with the topic, when you try to correct things by doing a compulsive behavior, that lets the disorder be in control. What it is looking for is to control your attention. And it controls your attention basically through fear, right? It says, watch out, this is happening, but the good news is I'll tell you how to correct this. And of course, this is just a continued loop where the disorder says, hey, just do this checking or have this positive image and it will dissolve away. And of course, short term, it works. That's the other issue, right? All you got to do is this, and it'll only take you this little amount of time, and then this will dissolve away and you can get back to work or get back to interacting with your children or whatever you want to do. And so we fall for this, and it is automatic. It's human nature, really, to respond to this kind of threat in this kind of way. I'm going to back up or I'm going to protect myself. But your question, I think, leads to this whole idea that when I am so engaged in this process, I'm missing all these other things. I only have a third of my mind available to hang out with my children. I can't concentrate enough to complete my exams, and on and on. We could give examples of what happened. So that's what we're going after. We want to break this down. We want to tear this down. The thing I would just say is, if you're going to create another structure in your mind about how to approach this, you have to blow up the current structure. We have to be destructive. We have to take down the model that it has been delivered to us by the disorder. So that's where we begin.
Yeah. And I think from what I see in my clients and in my students is similar to like an actual game, like an actual sport. When you're constantly playing defense, you are exhausted. Like that is an exhausting game if you're only in defense mode. And yes, it takes a lot of energy to be in the offense. But what I think where people are is they're sort of like exhausted from constantly being in defense and feeling hopeless about constantly being in defense.
Sure. And I think the other thing is the model I've been using with my OCD has been to some degree successful.
Yes.
And you're now talking about, trying to get me to do something that I've not experienced before. Okay, easy for you to say, for me to do this. You're not going to end up living with the consequences if you're wrong. So there's this real terror around dropping my, even if this has a lot of cost to it, there's this terrifying idea that, yeah, but I don't know what that's going to do to me. My fear is it's going to provide this catastrophic outcome that I've been protecting myself or my loved ones from. So it takes, first off, a great deal of courage to do this. I think you and I know as specialists that we are trying to, sorry to say it this way, but try to get ourselves to, as therapists, to be perceived as bigger than the disorder,
Mm,
because
mm.
it comes in as an authority. And if we
Yes.
don't come in stronger as authorities, then they're going to go, well, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? Or they're going to do exposure practice timidly. And
Yes.
as you've alluded to, this is an aggressive sport. If
Yes.
you are going to be timid about your exposure, you are not going to win. You can talk to
Yes.
any specialist in the world in OCD and ask them, can a timid strategy work? And 100% of them will say no. So
Yes.
we got to team up,
Yes.
all of us, to be understanding what the playing field is, that is the pseudo playing field, and what's another way to be perceiving and acting in the world.
Yes.
Don't get me
It's funny
wound
be
up,
No,
Kimberly. I
I'm
mean,
actually laughing because, I've been recently talking with I'm Australian, many of my friends are American, and some of my American friends have brought to my attention the New Zealander footballers who do the haka at the beginning of their game.
yeah,
Now, this is a cultural dance that they do, but they are yelling and their eyes are big and their tongue is out, and they're saying, "Why are they doing this? Like, it's a football game." But it's a cultural way of showing we will not back down. You will not intimidate us. Like, we are here to show up and play the game, and it's so effective. Like, it is pretty scary to watch. And we have to be like that in recovery if we're going to win. We have to play the offensive.
yeah, absolutely right. But that comes a little later than what we first have to do, because in the beginning we can't be like, oh, I've got you, I'm bigger than you are, come on, right?
Yeah.
Because we're unsure, we're nervous, we're needing confidence, and we don't have confidence. So we have to begin the process by stepping forward with a sense of uncertainty, with a sense of doubt, with a sense of threat, and do it anyway until we gather knowledge based on our experience. This is working. Then we got to lock that down to go, this is the approach I want to take, or I'm building this approach, or I can take this approach around this issue in my OCD. And then we can step up and be stronger. So we really got to get to the place where we can be as strong as that.
Yeah.
I love the analogy.
Absolutely, yeah. So you frame OCD not as a part of someone's identity, but as more of an external challenger, maybe like a fake referee or a pickpocket. And that framing is different to how most people experience it. They often feel it as that OCD is them, like the thoughts are coming from who they are. Why is that distinction so important? And why is that such an important part of, shifting the view?
First off, this is a mental health disorder. It's real, it's valid, it's in there in the neurology and messing with us. We are trying to do is lay out a new neurological pathway that competes with the current pathway that exists. So many people say, my brain tells me, and as soon as they say that, I correct them therapeutically. Would it be okay if we started to call that the disorder, or OCD tells me, or my obsession tells me, because there we are building this external sense. And why are we doing that is because we want to get to the place of when this messaging comes up, I'm not attending to this message. This is not me. We already call it an intrusive thought or feeling or image. And that's what we want to build. This does not belong in my brain, but it is in my brain. I need to strategically build mental process that moves it away from my brain, because you and I know, and all of us who are specialists know, we are not trying to extinguish the obsession. Obsessions are going to come and go. We don't want to be focused on doing the intervention and then going, is it still there? We're not doing that. We don't care. That's how we want to build it. We don't care what pops up in our mind that is obsessive. We don't care about the frequency of it popping up. We're building our response to that. That's why I try to say it, because some people have days where they're just pummeled with obsessions. They know what to do. They know how to respond to them. But as you were saying, they just become exhausted by it anyway. And yes, you're going to have days like that. And, that's how it goes. This is an attitude shift. It's like, okay, when I have these days, I don't want to get so frustrated that I just surrender. Of course, it's frustrating. We want to catch that and go, what is the game? It's like, one of the ways I have people think about it is, and they don't, this is paradoxical. And so this is what's so hard for people. It's like, okay, good. Oh, there it is again, right? We're treating the obsessions and the urges to do the compulsions moment by moment. Exposure includes frequency of practice. If we say every time an obsession pops up, that's an opportunity to increase my skills. I'm having a day where I'm just getting pummeled by it. I want to perceive that as, 55 opportunities to build my response to it, even though I'm exhausted by it. So that's why we start to externalize it and kind of really lock it in place.
I love that you say, and I'd love for you to really go deeper into this, because I'm pretending I'm the listener. I'm constantly listening to my guests, and then I know what my guests, listeners are going to say is, teach me how to not care what OCD says. Like, what I know you have like a 6-part framework, but maybe you have additional components you want to bring in here. Like, teach me moment by moment how to not care, or at least be in the practice of not caring about the intrusive thoughts that people have.
Well, we begin with that kind of metacognitive, the going up one level of abstraction to understand how does it maintain control of my mind. And it does it by instilling this understanding that this is terrible that it's happening and I need to get rid of it. We want to comprehend that if that's what it's doing, because in metacognitive therapy, this is really what we're trying to do. What's the challenger's move and what is our counter move, right? So if the challenger is going, I want you to pay attention to this, then my counter move is, I'm not going to pay attention to this. If it wants me to start planning out how to get rid of it, I want to not care whether it stays. So you've got to really understand that kind of framework, which is paradoxical. And then moment by moment, you're implementing that. It's like, okay, there's my obsession. You want to be able to, once you understand the whole structure, which is, it can sound complex, but it's not. It's not very many moves that the disorder makes. And that's to our advantage. The disorder only has a few moves. Well, if that's true, and we can understand what is our counter move, then we can just do that over and over again. Part of the problem, and I think, sorry to say, some of the ways people teach around exposure and response prevention for OCD is focus on that topic, the content of your obsession, what I would call your theme, and let's take that down. Let's pay attention to it, go over and over again, allow it to pop up, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying blah, blah, blah to the gold standard of treatment. So who am I to say that? But the work I think we need to be doing is going up one level of abstraction. It has nothing to do with the topic, because
Yes.
everybody knows that, if you're 55 years old and you've had it since you were, a teenager, you've had 5, 6, 7 different themes that have come up through your life. So we don't care about themes. What is the process? What is common denominator of those 5 different periods of having these obsessions? That's what we're going after. And that shrinks down what we have to be paying attention to. It restricts us. And so what you were asking before is like, okay, what are the rules of the game? If I can learn the rules of the game, then I'm there and I'll just, play by those particular rules. When the National Basketball League, the United States League, started playing European teams in Europe, the European game is a different structure. It's got a few rules that are not the same as ours. And so the NBA teams really had difficulty with those games until they got it together. Repeat is what coaches do anyway. You're drilling until you know it by heart. Same thing that firefighters go through in training, same thing that the military goes through, same thing that police officers go through. You learn the structure. When this happens, here's how I respond. And you
Mm,
drill. And then once you have that, you're playing the game. So I'm
yeah.
mixing sort of legitimately threatening and dangerous situations with this game, but it is how you do it. When you got it and you can use it consistently, which is the most difficult part of all of this, in case you were going to ask me, is believing that what the disorder pops up is irrelevant to the treatment, that it is not a signal, it is noise. If you don't figure that part out, nothing else works.
Mm,
Nothing else works. This is why people struggle so much. It's like, so the treatment is not exposure. The treatment is exposure with attitude. I know what I need to be doing to be responding to this disorder. So I'm not going to just follow my therapist's instructions about how to do the practice. I'm not going to just do those exercises because I've been told to. I want to absorb what they're saying. I want to metabolize the instructions. If I don't understand them, I don't want to do them. So if I can absorb that and understand what's the function of this exposure practice, then I can metabolize that and start utilizing it.
yeah. I once had, I'll change all of the details here for privacy, but I did once have a client many, many years ago where I was giving assignments of exposure. I was telling them, like, this is what you need to do. And they were, yes, okay. And they go and try and do it. And there was one day where they kept coming back and they were like, but there has to be like something else. Like, there has to be something else. And I was like, really? No, like, you just have to do the work. And of course, I said it more eloquently than that, but it was like, this is just something you have to do on repeat from here now. Like, just do it on repeat. Practice these skills of, like, again, like that paradoxical, do the opposite of, or to, with, like you said, do it with attitude. And something clicked and they were like, oh, I get it. Like, this is an on repeat activity.
Yeah, but
This
what you're
is,
saying now, that opening line, oh, I get it, is exactly
yes.
what we're looking for.
Yes, but it was a contentious moment between us. Like, I always think for myself too, you kinda have to get so sick of yourself and so sick of the playbook of OCD to be like, "Okay, I'm actually going to," like you said, "metabolize this and put it into play." So, do you believe you have to have that aha moment or that moment where you're so sick of yourself? Or what can help people move into this faster?
Yes, in the end, as you just described, you need to have that aha moment. But what we
Mhm.
were saying before is you've got to do some experiments before you really get it. You really think it's going to be helpful. You have to be more courageous and all that kind of stuff. So I think the way you do it is experiments. And I think the part that we're trying to play as therapists is how do we construct a practice, an experiment that will modify something about the ritual or the routine in general that they would tolerate. So what we're up against is resistance. That's what we're talking about. Resistance. Why do I not want to change? Well, whatever it is, it's like I need to go work out today, but I'm just not in the mood. I'm kind of tired. That's that resistance. So you have to find a way to push through it. Part of what I talk about, I have a book called Quiet Your OCD Brain, and I just go through when this is coming up where I feel like the exposure in general is too big for me. Oh, how do we start messing with the pattern? So, for instance, one of the biggest things I tend to work with people about in the beginning is what I just call postponing. Kind of seems self-evident, but so here's how it goes. Okay, the obsession says you need to do this compulsion, and what it gives you is a sense of urgency, immediacy. You need to do this and you need to do it now. That's one of the ways you can start recognizing, is this an obsession or is this valid, right? All of a sudden it's like, I got to do it now, critically important. And if I don't do it, this catastrophe will occur. So we want to postpone. You would be like, okay, I will do that compulsion, but I'm going to wait, make up the number, 10 minutes before I do it. So part of what we are doing, and we do it a half hour or right before dinner or once I get home from work, if we, again, and this is a kind of manipulation that we're trying to bring forward, which is, okay, I am going to throw the symptom cluster a bone. I'm going to say, yes, I will. I guarantee myself that at 4 o'clock, I am going to do this compulsion. I am not going, okay, my job is to never do this compulsion, even though I have the urgency and the demand. I say, no, I'm going to do it. I'll do it then and not now. So I'm still going to do it, but I'm modifying one aspect, which is time. If I agree to that, what I want to do between that agreement and the time I'm going to act on it is I'm bringing my attention elsewhere. I'm doing anything else. I'm not watching the clock and going, okay, God, it's 2:30. I still have an hour and a half of these obsessions coming up. Oh my God, it's going so slow. What do I do? Blah, blah, blah. We're going to practice the skill of I'm hearing the obsession and I'm treating it as nothing because I'm guaranteeing myself that I will treat it as something later on if I need to. That, if we can get that going, again, the length of time is irrelevant. It is that I put a little space in there because with OCD, there's no space, putting a little space of time in there, and then I'm practicing this skill. So it has depending on what the obsession is and the urgency is, for most of them, you can put a little wedge of time in and it won't be as terribly threatening. So those kind of, I go through all of it. If you do your ritual with your left hand, we'll switch it to your right hand. If you use a bar of soap, we're going to switch you to lotion or liquid soap. If you just go series of things to do. If I have to do it when I'm standing up, let me see if I can do it sitting. There's so many manipulations that we can do to just start messing with the pattern. And we're beginning neurologically to let the brain know that this is not required right now. And we do it enough. So that opens up, neurologically, it's like, okay, I can do a delay tactic. The last thing I would say just about this exercise is that occasionally, because OCD is so impulsive, it's got to happen right now. Occasionally, when I put this wedge of time in and get engaged in other things, when that time to do the compulsion comes up, the urgency is dissolved away. Yep. And I go, what? Wow, that's, it's really about like anticipatory anxiety. We're trying to teach people anticipatory anxiety is not predictive of outcome, right?
Yeah.
So when that dissolves away, now we've done a practice that was relatively safe, but there's that aha moment. We're going, well, what do you know? So when that anticipatory dread and fear pops up in my mind, I don't necessarily have to buy into it.
Yeah. So I love the language you're using here. And you use in your book the idea of misbehaving or getting into like good trouble, right? To do like you're talking about, the opposite of what OCD demands. Can you tell us a little more about that language that you talk about?
Well, again, this is an aggressive sport. The disorder has rules that we're already following. If I keep trying to make changes but follow those rules, I'm going to just be going in circles, right? And so misbehaving as that is my job is to break the rules. Now, very often when I break the rules, I'm going to get, use this term loosely, punished by the disorder. All of a sudden, three new thoughts pop up in my head that are fearful when I make some kind of change. We have to break the rule and we make it our rule. I was just got an email from somebody who's doing practices around driving and not running somebody over or whatever. And so we've got him so he only drives with his parent in the car. And so we've been working with the idea of I want parents to put a blindfold on. He would just have them close their eyes, right? And so we've exchanged a few times because I haven't seen him face to face in a while. And he was going like, oh, I'm back from vacation and now I'm working again around my parents and driving with them closing their eyes. And I wrote back and said, just don't forget that every day when you practice, try to make it a little more difficult than the day before. That you have to keep moving. What the position I want them to be asking themselves is, what can I do today that will make me a little uncomfortable or uncertain about my theme? And then, in terms of how you do practice, that's the practice.
Right. Absolutely. And I love the language of like misbehaving. It's a little mischievous, right? Like we're getting into good trouble or because you said we will get in trouble by
Yeah.
OCD. And there's something that
I'm just
we
saying,
can make that fun.
the rule is to break the rule.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
what you adopt.
Right. So, last question for somebody who's been playing defense for years, they're exhausted, right? They are tired. They feel like nothing is working or that they're just giving up hope. What do you want them to understand and what do you believe is possible for them?
Well, we know people get better. We know it. So it is possible. You're a people, therefore, logically, you should also have the possibility of getting better. This is what we do every day and have been doing for a long time. And I'm not saying, oh, we figured everything out and all the ways that we have people intervene in their disorder will be successful for them particularly. We don't know that. But what we do know is that you step forward into uncertainty and distress. And that whatever model you use to do that, we know that that is the right move. And if we talk to anybody who is stronger now, they will tell you that. And the other thing that they will tell you is, we talk about mindfulness a lot. And so, the end game is to be mindful. I don't quite go that way in the beginning, but in the end, that's how we want to do is we want to get to a place where that thought comes in and, that emotion comes in or that image comes in and floats in and just floats. We're just a conduit and it just floats on and moves on to wherever it goes next. We don't care about that. To back up to say the model that I'm using, because we're talking about aggressiveness and a mindful approach, 100% mindful approach isn't like an aggressive, it's more neutral. We're looking to get to neutral.
Yes.
People do get to neutral and it's possible. I guess that is, simply put, we can get there to neutral. And there are a number of paths you could take. If you resonate to one, you want to be thinking about taking that path. And if you go, whatever distance, and that's like, wow, I'm not getting there, then you can look around for another path. There are some consistent guidelines I think we should be taking, but you got to look around for a path that resonates with you.
I love everything that you're saying here, Reid. And I'd love for people to know where they can learn more about your new book and any other books that you want to share or resources. Tell us about where people can learn more about you.
Well, the best way is just to go on my website, which is called anxieties.com. It's been around 28 years. It's basically a self-help site, free, so you can get on the site and work on OCD or work on panic disorder or work on social anxiety, whatever you want. If you get on that index page, that opening page of anxiety, and so it's plural, ANXIETIS.com. And if you get there and you linger on that opening page for about 8 or 10 seconds, you'll get a pop-up that says, what are you trying to work on? And just let me know, and I'll send you a PDF of all the resources I have throughout this website, and I've got like 45 YouTube clips and so forth. So if you fill that out, then you're going to get that answer, and that's the easiest way because the website is huge, and you're not going to realize all the resources available. But this PDF will get you there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here and
Yeah.
talking about this. It's so exciting, and congratulations on your new book.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know you have put a lot of work into that book.
Yep. Yep. Started 40 years ago. So,
It's amazing.
so
Yes, yes. Well, thank you again.
good to see you.